Thanks as always for taking the time out. We're going to continue that discussion. We also have Abneesh Roy joining in right now from Nuvama Institutional Equities. Abneesh, hi, morning. We were just chatting with Mr. Sunil Dugal about the trends that he's seeing. And from where he left it off, want to talk about the QSR space because that's been in a slump for quite some time now. While the first quarter was subdued, we did see some positive outlook from a few companies here and there. But tell me what's really happening in terms of, a meaningful recovery, if you will, on ground zero, considering you have a hang of that.
Yeah, thanks. So definitely gradual recovery will happen. We have seen that space seeing slowdown now almost for 6 quarters. So base has become favorable, but there is a lot of competition between the players and delivery clearly seems to be doing better. So delivery focused players should do better. But definitely what we are seeing is urban consumption still there is a challenge. We have seen impact of the higher interest rates. We have also seen impact of the job losses and the salary cuts in the D2C startups, for example. Even software industry, if you see the job addition has been slow. So urban consumption, clearly what we see broader, it is more challenging versus rural. Even in FMCG, for example, we do expect rural to grow faster than urban even in this quarter. So that's why I would say even in QSR, the demand trends are muted currently, and it will be a gradual recovery and delivery focused players will see a higher recovery. So we are more positive on rural consumption in the broader consumption basket, and that's why we'll prefer the staples companies a bit more than the discretionary urban focused companies.
Let me just look at where the Bajaj Finance or Bajaj Housing Finance will have to now get accustomed to mentioning both the names, which is Bajaj Housing Finance and Bajaj Finance. It was always only one Bajaj Finance, not Bajaj Housing Finance also. It's pointless to really comment on where the stock is. There is demand and there is supply and there is desperation. And then there is this excitement and euphoria. And when all these factors, they come out, demand, technicals, flows, desperation, you don't know what happens in the short term. So it's pointless to say that this is it for Bajaj Housing Finance or this is good or this is bad. Let the stock settle. Let the market discover where the fair price is and then we'll talk about it. Abneesh, I'd like to draw your attention to some specific categories, and some of the specific categories, essentially, let's say the food category, which has become a very large category for ITC, for HUL, now even for Britannia. That is one category which is definitely making a comeback. That is one category which is very sensitive to inflation. How do you see companies which are dominated in the food category moving? And there are lots of them now.
Yeah, food space definitely quite attractive, and there we'll prefer Bikaji because it's a pure play foods company. For the larger companies, HUL, ITC, also foods is an attractive category, but they are very diversified companies. So we are seeing double-digit volume growth for Bikaji last many quarters, and we expect that to continue. Today, of course, the edible oil sharp duty hike has happened. So what we see is Q2, no impact of that because already most of the Q2 is done. Plus, companies generally have some inventory. But in H2, we see most of the food companies taking price hike, given there is a sharp inflation in the edible oil because of the duty hike by 20%. So that should help overall pricing growth also. We need to see if any impact in the margins, but we don't see much impact given this is an industry-wide issue. So we like Britannia also in that space. So we have been quite positive and had a strong buy there. The stock has done well. We expect high single-digit volume growth for Britannia also to continue. Nestle, we see in the near term slight underperformance given they are facing challenges in the Maggi portfolio because there is a consumption switch towards other forms of snacks. Even in the NAN and lactogen infant nutrition, there is some consumption pressure. So we'll prefer Bikaji and Britannia in that space.
Abneesh, you talked about the import duty rejig which has happened on edible oil, but just give us more insights into what will be the stock-specific impact or the company-level impact on that, because stocks like Emami are under pressure today. Of course, HUL is down. Godrej Consumer had opened with a bit of a downtick. You said in Q2 there wouldn't be much impact on earnings, but let's say Q3, what part of the raw material for them comes from this specific product? What will be the impact on the margins?
Yeah, it's a good question. If you see broadly 3 segments of FMCG, we need to consider here. First is the pure play edible oil companies. There, what we don't see too much of a negative impact in the near term because there is inventory which is available at lower cost. So they will in fact have some inventory gains in the near term. And in H2, we see edible oil companies pass it on to end customer because this is again sharp duty hike of 20%. And this will help the larger players gain market share because whenever sharp inflation happens, we see number one, number two player gain market share. Second will be in terms of the soap manufacturers, right? HUL, GCPL, etc. See, they don't use palm oil directly. They use the derivative PFAD. Here we need to see whether they use the imported PFAD or the domestically produced PFAD. So it's a indirect impact, and what we see is in both HUL and GCPL, rest of the commodity basket in terms of the packaging cost and the crude derivative, HDP, LAB, etc. There is a softness because those are linked to the crude oil. So overall, we don't see a big impact on HUL, GCPL also. So it's more of a derivative. Third will be, of course, in terms of the snacks companies. As I said, Britannia, Bikaji, Nestle, there is some adverse impact in H2 because of the raw material going up. But as I said, there also we do expect pass-through. So Britannia, Bikaji, etc., and even Nestle are likely to take price hike to pass on this palm oil inflation. So overall, not a big impact. It's more of a normal inflation we see. Government is trying to drive the consumption of soybean, rice bran, mustard oil, and the groundnut. So overall, farm income should go up. So medium long term, this is directionally positive for rural consumption. So that's positive for the space.
Abneesh, good to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking with us today.
Thank you.
Well, let's just focus on the new debutant